All right, we're live. Now, let's see here. Let's play the new. I need to fix the video on that. I need to take time to do that. Happy Monday. Hope you guys are all having a wonderful day so far. Hey, Jenny. Hey, Marie. Hey, Marcy, Mark, Helen, Daisy. Hope you guys are all having a wonderful Monday so far. So we're going to hop into this. We're actually going to, I love it, Revival. I just got to do the video part of it. But that involves pictures, and I haven't wanted to do that yet. Well, actually, it's coming, but I love the song though. The full song is great too. It's wonderful. Like that song, I don't know. It's a great fitting song for me. Okay, so we're going to hop back into the Tim Ballard lawsuit that's going on. It is Tim Ballard and OUR on top of many other people involved. We're going to go back into this. We are at the first cause of action. Let's share that screen. But we're also going to watch a video today, part of a video from Lyn Packer, because I think people are missing or like not understanding that this has been exposed for quite some time. This is nothing. Helen, thank you. By the way, the other thing, my ring's too big, even with the spacer anymore. So no, I'm not wearing my ring because it fell off even with the spacer. So we're on a hunt for my ring. So there's that. It's been an interesting weekend, but no big deal. But before anybody asks me where my ring is, Kyle's still here. Don't worry. It slid right off. So I guess that's a good thing though, because my hands aren't inflamed. All right. Are you guys ready? You got your electrolytes with you? I added electrolytes to my water today. We're going to go back up here a little bit, though, just to highlight a couple of these, because this is where we're going to head into this. So this is the lawsuit, but I want to re-highlight a few of these comments, because it's kind of interesting what is now coming forward with this whole situation. And that makes me, I have a lot of questions about this that I've been trying to find answers to, and I'm just not really sure. So on 46, it says one of Ballard's closest friends is Attorney General Sean Reyes, with Reyes promoting Ballard until just recently to be the next United States Senator from the state of Utah, as you guys are all well aware of that. Can you guys see it? Hopefully you guys can see it pretty well. General Reyes has repeatedly vouched for OUR and Tim Ballard, even participating in an alleged op in Colombia, which was well publicized in Utah, giving Ballard the cover of top law enforcement officer in the state of Utah to carry out his purposes, including the couple's ruse, even while consumer complaints and criminal investigations were coming into his office regarding the improprieties of OUR and Ballard. General Reyes gave undue credibility to OUR and Tim Ballard with foreign leaders. Yeah, they even gave fake awards to some of these foreign leaders that were later removed from office for corruption and scandals. But hey, complaints of fraud and sex abuse by OUR and Tim Ballard were coming into the Attorney General's office, and it was determined that the Davis County Attorney's Office would conduct a criminal investigation of Tim Ballard and OUR, as the Attorney General of the state of Utah had a conflict of interest because of his involvement in support of Tim Ballard and OUR. That's a big piece, and that's kind of where we're headed today with this. And we're going to talk about some of the involvement with the church, and we're going to go to one of Lyn's. That's why I wanted to go back in this and show you guys some of this, because the part that really bothers me here is now that the LDS Church is being named in this, that they potentially gave tithing records. So in the Mormon Church, in order to have a temple recommend, just so you guys are aware of a little more of the breakdown of this, in order to have a temple recommend, meaning that you can go into the temples, you have to be tithing 10% of your income. And the Mormon Church keeps up on that. They absolutely keep records, but those records are kept in-house. So it's supposed to be only the bishops, the stake leaders, the stake president, and the higher ups in the office that can see those records. Well, according to this, that's not the case. And we're going to go down a little bit further just to remind you guys. OUR began claiming credit on its webpage and blog posts for work that other organizations were performing. We'll get to the part that I'm talking about in just a moment. When these organizations started criticizing OUR on social media for its fraudulent hijacking of the plaintiff's organization's work, OUR and Tim Ballard began attacking them. Some of these organizations reached out to the Davis County investigation team based upon their experiences with OUR and Tim Ballard's dishonesty and attacks, what OUR was actually doing. The Davis County Attorney's Office issued subpoenas to some of these complainants for them to provide certain documents and testimony related to its investigation of OUR. Upon learning of these complaints, Attorney General Reyes would step in and, rather than investigate what OUR and Tim Ballard were doing, would intimidate the complainants. Some of these complainants became very nervous, which anxiety was justified, as both plaintiff and Troy Rawlings were threatened with a lawsuit by OUR and Tim Ballard. And OUR and Tim Ballard hired a law firm in San Francisco to sue Troy Rawlings. Troy Rawlings has declined to give a comment at this point in time, according to the Salt Lake Tribune, who is the Davis County prosecuting attorney. That's kind of a big deal, though. If they were threatening other attorneys in the state of Utah, that's kind of a big deal. Okay, then we're going to go into, so it goes back to, at the same time, others who had made complaints against OUR and Tim Ballard, critically and highly credible witnesses, began withdrawing their complaints based upon fear of retribution by OUR and Tim Ballard, thus impeding the Davis County investigation. The Davis County investigation revealed that OUR and Tim Ballard were aware of the allegations were being made that Ballard failed his CIA polygraph test, was an unpaid intern at the CIA, and he was fired from the CIA. Definitely not what's being stated by Tim Ballard or the Sound of Freedom. So he failed his CIA polygraph test, was an unpaid intern at the CIA, but that was his big stick. That was his big claim to fame. OUR and Tim Ballard were aware that 8 different women had complained to the Davis County investigation that Ballard had engaged in sexual affairs with them. 8. There was 8. We've heard from 6 women and one of the husbands. OUR and Tim Ballard were aware that the Davis County attorney believed that Catherine Ballard had tampered with witnesses to impede them from cooperation with the Davis County investigation. I mentioned in the title of this, Children Need Families, CNF. If you go back to the video that we did on Children Need Families, which was Catherine Ballard's involvement in all of this, there's a lot of questions. Supposedly, CNF, Children Need Families, were an offshoot of OUR, another one of the whiteboard. Hold on, let me pull that up for you guys so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Going back to the whiteboard of Tim Ballard's, and this is the original whiteboard, but thank you, Damian Moore did a full breakdown. So if you see how this whiteboard that Tim Ballard had used in meetings previously, you'll notice that Slave Stealers LLC, the for-profit, is over all of these. Then it goes Brian Norton, Tim Ballard, Russell Ballard, President Russell M. Ballard, the church. You'll see Children Need Families here in the middle too. Children Need Families supposedly helped bring in 223 kids at the last known number to families here. Do we know where they are from? Do we know if they're legal adoptions? Do we have any idea? We have no idea. And meanwhile, we've been told by other people that there's a potential that the church was actually sending money to some of these families too and giving grants. So where was this all shuffled around really from? That's my question on that. Where are the kids? Are these legal adoptions? Has anybody ever followed up on it? How do we know that they weren't just going to other countries? And in essence, again, I'm not claiming this as fact, but in my opinion, how we don't have any proof that these are legal adoptions. Were they just going to countries and buying children in essence and bringing them over to the United States? Like, what was going on here? Because none of this, everything that they have done has huge holes in it. None of it makes sense. Okay, let's continue to go. OUR and Tim Ballard were aware that the Davis County attorney believed that Catherine Ballard had tampered with witnesses. So she's witness tampering. Meanwhile, supposedly runs this Children Need Families 501c. Something don't make sense there. Troy Rawlings also believed that General Reyes was guilty of witness tampering. Rawlings alleged to have written communications from AG Reyes to a witness requesting the witness not to cooperate with Rawlings in the investigation. OUR went to its de facto general counsel, Sean Reyes, and asked that a special prosecutor be appointed to prosecute Troy Rawlings. All because there was an investigation into OUR, so they started threatening and harassing, it seems like, everybody in Davis County. Interesting, huh? Troy Rawlings went to Attorney General Sean Reyes and informed him of OUR's threat to sue him, which General Reyes immediately informed Tim Ballard and OUR of Troy Rawlings' concerns and deemed Mr. Rawlings' statements as false. Even as more fraud complaints came into General Reyes, he would immediately send them to Tim Ballard on his personal email instead of his official Utah email. At this time, Tim Ballard was ignoring his in-house counsel's advice that what he was doing was illegal and unethical and could subject him to criminal liability from the Davis County investigation and Department of Justice. Ballard claims to be blessed by Tom Harrison, both while Tom is alive, and through Spear President Ken Krogh, claiming to anoint Ballard as a chosen one, not subject to the jurisdiction of government and church authorities. Okay, right there. Ballard claims to be blessed by Tom Harrison. For those of you that don't quite understand the link there, Tom Harrison is basically the Spencer in the Visions of Glory. If you know anything about these extremist belief systems that are offshoots of the LDS, a lot of them have been known to use Visions of Glory, and Tom Harrison, who is a psychologist, his teachings, which are in this Visions of Glory book. He goes by Spencer in the name or in the book, and it was ghost written by John Pontius. So Tom Harrison was behind that book, but he supposedly blessed Tim. And I don't know, something fishy here, but this is where we're going to go. Ballard has been, until recently, business associates and close friends with Apostle and acting president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, M. Russell Ballard, President Ballard of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Mormon or Mormon Church. President Ballard has cited Tim Ballard to students at BYU, Idaho, as an expert of the Book of Mormon, Prophet Nephi, and the Mormon view of American history. I do have, thankfully, what's it called? X. It's now X, not Twitter. The former Twitter account of Tim Ballard Exposed has been covering some of this, and they actually provided the links for the actual speech that President Russell M. Ballard gave that included Tim Ballard to the BYU. So we can get into that later too. Tim Ballard has met with President Ballard in the church administration building in Salt Lake City to discuss OUR's work. This is where I have an issue. The Davis County investigation, according to OUR's own internal documents, revealed that Elder M. Russell Ballard and other authorities from the Mormon Church provided Mormon tithing records to OUR to help OUR target wealthy donors and wealthy Mormon church wards. That's a big deal. And maybe people aren't quite understanding, but that's a huge deal. So again, we talked about this a little bit, but this is where I was trying to get. The Mormon Church keeps record of everybody that has a temple recommend, their wages, and how much they're tithing. So they have records of that, which are supposedly confidential. The only people that can access this are bishops, stake presidents, and the upper business offices of the Mormon Church. According to this document, the church was giving that information to OUR of who the upper authority or who the upper wealthy members of the church were, so they could target them for their fundraising. Wouldn't that, here's where I'm going to ask you guys, do you guys think that that's illegal? But it's a church. So does the church govern itself as far as records go? Are the members able to complain about this and say, hey, you're disclosing my private information? I would think that that would be highly illegal. But again, now we have a church involved, which has a whole different level of laws and rules and kind of self-governed in a way. But in my opinion, that's a big deal. Hey, Celeste. Hey, Kay. Hey, everybody popping in. This is just wild to me. I don't know. I think this is a big deal. What do you guys think that this, if you know anything about the law, what do you think that this would actually represent? And the reason why I wanted to highlight this is because I want to go back to one of Lyn Packer's videos. You guys, Lyn does not get near enough credit for how much amazing work he's done on this whole entire story here. Let me switch screens here. Share this tab instead. Okay. We're going to go over here. Okay. Yeah, I'm wondering, Celeste, they already have the one against Huntsman's. Huntsman's got a class action suit against the LDS Church, but something is that just, to me, I don't know. And again, please go check out Lyn Packer. I will drop his links and everything in the description as soon as we are done with this. Lyn Packer has really been the forefront of this fight against OUR and Tim Ballard. He has not let up. He has been reporting on this for years. Thank God for Lyn Packer and Damian Moore that have just kept on the necks of this and never let up. This is nothing new. This is nothing new, but I really want to highlight what Lyn brought out a while ago against all of these people. So let me go back here and show you guys the date of this video because it's 3 years ago. September 29th, 2020. This is from 2020. Can you imagine? Oh, wait, it's already been out here. Okay, let's get into this.
I'm Lyn Packer with part 3 of my video op-ed. This one's about Sean Reyes and Tim Ballard and Operation Underground Railroad's Mormon extremism factor. Utah Attorney General Sean Reyes and Tim Ballard are kindred spirits. They're an OUR fundraising dynamic duo.
An OUR fundraising dynamic duo is what Lyn calls them, that seem to have had direct help from the Mormon Church to target these donors. We're given access to names and information of who would be beneficial for them to align with. Think about that. Think about the level of, in my opinion, corruption.
They're GOP right-wingers, Trump supporters, anti-maskers, get-rich-quick schemers, gun nuts, preppers, survivalists, fringe Mormon doctrine believers.
That prepper survivor list, we've seen a lot of that with the Lori Vallow situation, even as recent as the Blaze Thibodeau when he was missing, with his mom's Spring and his uncle, Brooke Hale. We watched some of the preppers and how scary that got with the missing children.
and QAnon-like pedophile conspiracy theorists.
And that's the truth too, because every time anybody would criticize the entire Sound of Freedom movie, this is what they used behind it to say, oh, you're just a bad person, or you support the P's, or all of that stuff. That's how they distracted everybody, was these crazy QAnon and extremist belief systems.
But before I take a look at the Mormon extremism aspect,
Hey,
this
bro.
news update.
Hey, Dark Horse.
On August 27th, I was the first to report that the Davis County attorney received a complaint, a request for a criminal investigation into how OUR solicits donations. Since then, Davis County Attorney Troy Rawlings has signaled a criminal investigation, in fact, may have begun. Rawlings posted several Instagram messages. One points out his office has its own child sex crimes unit. Another warns about donation solicitors who falsely claim credit for arrests they did not make.
And now we are hearing in the lawsuit that not only did Troy point out some of these things in his Instagram post from 3 years ago, according to Lyn, but in the current lawsuit that we're reading through and learning, they were, in my opinion, harassing Troy and threatening Troy while this was all going on. Again, 3 years ago.
Rawlings included an online video that shows his office's wall of shame. It shows targets of his investigations, which apparently include sex crimes arrests made without any help from private anti-trafficking groups. On Instagram, Rawlings admonishes everyone to investigate before donating. Get details before parting with your cash, he wrote. He also references Utah's communications fraud law. I made reference to that law in my first op-ed. It makes it illegal for anyone to devise a scheme to defraud another or to obtain from another money or anything of value by means of false or fraudulent pretenses, representations, promises, or material omissions.
Wouldn't that kind of be fitting that if the church was giving them private, personal information to solicit donations from a select group of wealthy LDS members, that kind of seems like that's an attempt to defraud people because they're not being honest of how they knew who to target. I don't know. There's a whole lot with this that just,
OUR's fastest growing claim, combined with other false claims and other material omissions about child sex trafficking, could subject Ballard and others to criminal prosecution. A former OUR insider, whose name I'm withholding, provides damaging testimony. He or she calls Ballard the very best liar I have come across. Whatever brings in more donors, morals and ethics go out the window. Tim has Sean Reyes in his back pocket.
Well, I guess Lyn Packer's investigation from 3 years ago. Y'all, please go give Lyn a big shout out, high five, like his videos, watch his videos. He has really been the key factor behind all of this, in my opinion.
OUR has never documented its claims that child sex trafficking is the fastest growing criminal enterprise and that there are 2 million child sex slaves worldwide, among other claims. OUR fundraisers continually fail to disclose facts that could cause people pause before donating money or volunteering services.
This is the fastest growing criminal enterprise on the planet.
Right now, human trafficking is the fastest growing criminal enterprise internationally. It is the second most lucrative. It's already leapfrogged arms dealing and counterfeiting. It trails only drug trafficking. And in reality, we don't know. It may have already surpassed that.
Rawlings, again on Instagram, warns about affinity fraud and tearful donation appeals. He writes, just because someone claims they are called of God when asking for your money does not necessarily mean they actually are. He suggests people question tearful appeals and guard against affinity fraud.
Pedro's okay. He just trolls me and comes up with a bunch of stuff about Tim Ballard. I'll unblock you, Pedro. Hold on. It's okay, Ellen.
Details do not mean simply listening to a sob story, even if the con invokes religion. Is it a coincidence? Tim Ballard's fundraising approach includes crying and invoking religion.
Shocker. Shocker. Thank you, Celeste. Thank you so much. Here, let's play a button. Let's play a button. Let's see which button. I need to do all new buttons for this because, man alive, these people have gotten crazy. They have gotten crazy. Oh, here, let's do this one. Thank you, Celeste. Oh, there's Keke. Here, you guys can have Keke cam right quick, too. He's coming in to interrupt for the day. Here he is. Yes, Zoya, he is. No, you're okay. Oh, Helen, I said Pedro's okay. Pedro's a good troll. Pedro comes in and like points out all the things that Tim Ballard has claimed. They don't bother me at all. They're sarcastic as hell and usually really good. So I'll unblock them. Don't worry about it.
This is from his website. This is one of 3 great quotes on his website. And I'm just holding this kid thinking, what am I going to do? And I start crying like a baby. I'm just holding this kid and I'm just crying. So Ballard and his wife went to the temple for guidance. The next morning, in what Ballard describes as a spiritual download, he received a clear and undeniable answer: find the lost children. We pray constantly, he says. We pray for protection. We pray for guidance to find the children, to find the honest government officials in other countries.
Because what wouldn't you do for your kid? And in that case, it's not a surprise that 2 of those kids that we rescued actually literally became my kids.
Finally, on Instagram, Rawlings warns that any pressure to keep witnesses quiet could be criminal witness tampering. He cautions against using threats or non-disclosure agreements to silence people. He cites the Utah Code. And then at the end, he said, you'll be hearing more from our office about this in the relatively near future. Regarding OUR donors who live in Davis County, OUR has held a lot of fundraisers in Davis County. Davis County donors who believe they were misled could contact the county attorney's office at 801-451-4300 or email investigations chief Craig Webb at this address. Okay, now to the main purpose of this op-ed, some of the key people who are in the OUR orbit: Glenn Beck, Paul Hutchinson, Eric Moutsos, Burgess Owens, Kahia Kamahu, and Russell Brunson. I'll start with Kahia Kamahu. He's seen here with Sean Reyes at an Open Up Utah event.
These were the officials and the other people being mentioned in the OUR lawsuit that's currently going on. Yes, Lyn is absolutely ex-Mormon. His dad was actually, I won't tell the entire story. I encourage you to go watch because he has talked about it some, but he has a very interesting story in why he is so on top of the Utah stuff. Like it's a lot. Lyn's incredible, y'all. Incredible. Sorry, I was trying to unblock Pedro, but I don't know how to block somebody that's just been timed out. Unblock somebody. So Pedro, come back on a different alt.
He's a University of Utah business technology graduate. He claims to have a PhD. In 2012, he took out bankruptcy, but he bounced back. He's now a multimillionaire. He's also a motivational speaker. He's CEO of Hawaii-based ROI companies dealing in petroleum, real estate, and small business ventures. He's one of Ballard's OUR operatives, that is, a strike force team member.
3,000 times Edison failed, but he only needed 1 time for it to work. I made my first million by the time I was 25 years old. And then 2008 hit, I hit that crash, back down to 0. I had to rebuild my entire company. Failed over.
Helen, you're fine. You're totally fine. I forget that some of you guys don't know. You've been busy lately too. So they troll me on this stuff, and it's great because we engage back and forth. Like they come in sarcastically, list all of the things that Tim Ballard, the claims around Tim Ballard, they're actually really funny. But you're totally fine. Not your fault. I don't do a good job of keeping you guys informed. Sorry.
And over and over. I worked my ass off, but it was my failures that made me successful. We're now 10 times what I was before. And it was all because of the success in overcoming failures and obstacles. So I challenge you, fail often and fail forward. Boom.
One of Kamau's products is a coronavirus fighting nasal screen. It purportedly reduces disease pathogens.
Now, remember, this is from 3 years ago when all of that stuff was popping off. So this was also a thing back then. Like they were all hopping on whatever bandwagon they could to make some money off of it. Helen HS is a Pedro friend. Just so you know, all my mods, I'm like, oh shit, I should probably tell you guys.
They claim it's better than homemade masks. We're surrounded by viruses, it says, and up to 99% effective. Those are claims an attorney general should investigate. Come on.
Yeah, those are pretty huge claims that the attorney should have investigated.
Who hangs out with OUR movie star Jim Caviezel. There they are in Hawaii. Caviezel starred in A Thin Red Line, The Passion of Christ, and he stars in the upcoming movie Sound of Freedom. And there he is with the man he portrays in that film. Kamau partners with Paul Hutchinson, who I'll talk more about in a minute. They both claim to have PhDs. They have a joint Hawaiian coconut energy drink venture. It's a coconut powder drink mix, and they donate a portion of sales to fighting child trafficking.
What is with all of these guys around this organization? Here's another thing. Oh God, Freddie, you got to be more factual. Well, I guess he does think he is, doesn't he? Okay, fine. I'll give you that one, Freddie. I'll give you that one. But all of the guys around Tim Ballard have some sort of energy supplement. That was Sticky. Yes, that was his dad. That was Sean Reyes's dad was involved in an MLM that was doing the colloidal silver. That was his father. But if you think about it, they all have some sort of MLM or energy drink. The Freedom brands, that was Eric Mouts and those guys that push that. Like, that is another thing that they do. And do you think that the attorney general, who is so big on fighting fraud and claims against all this stuff, do you think he ever investigated any of that? Hey, V, it's good to see you. Interesting. I found this so interesting, though, because he picks apart every person that has been around this group, and there's all sorts of similarities. Okay, Keke, your butt is right in my way.
Next is Paul Hutchinson, shown here on the cover of Investor magazine.
There you go, Daniel.
He's a multimillionaire Mormon, associates with lots of other millionaires, including Mitt Romney. Here he's shown with other big OUR players, including success coach Tony Robbins, who I do not profile in this op-ed.
We are going to profile Tony Robbins coming up in the next week. I've got so much.
Hutchinson was with the Bridge Investment Group that had a $13.5 billion fund that it managed.
Just to give a little background on Paul Hutchinson, too, for those of you that are not familiar, Paul Hutchinson was an op with OUR. He went on some of these ops to other countries. He is also the one who supposedly grabbed or groped one of the female S workers at one of the clubs. It was talked about in Jimmy Rex's video. Jimmy Rex, that's his mentor, is Paul Hutchinson. Paul was honest about it, though, I will say, to a point. He has done interviews and discussed what had happened. It has been supposedly released that from governmental officials there that she was 18. They did think she was a minor at the time. However, it's all kind of up in the air. I don't care for Paul either, but Paul and Tim definitely parted ways. And I think that's why he's not being mentioned in this suit as of yet, because he was one of the first, in my opinion, to kind of back out of the situation. But he wasn't around for a lot.
He was a Sean Reyes campaign chairman, an OUR operative, founder of the Children Liberation Foundation, and a dyed-in-the-wool survivalist prepper. Hutchinson, as a prepper, has a massive stockpile of food, weapons, ammunition, and military-style armored vehicles.
This plays into the Visions of Glory and Tom Harrison, the prepper movement. Again, this isn't to do with like typical prepper stuff. This isn't to do with, common prepper stuff. This is the extremes. This is the extreme behaviors on all of it that they do.
He once bragged, they had a TV series years ago called Doomsday Preppers. I would have won that show.
They have a TV series out years ago that was called Doomsday Preppers. I would have won that show, but I don't tell everybody that's what I had at the time. But
Hutchinson is more than a millionaire. He's also well connected to the rich and famous. He knows dozens of millionaires and is skilled at getting them to not only invest in his company, but also to donate to OUR. He networks by throwing celebrity-studded parties.
Is how you network. You throw really cool parties and invite a whole bunch of guys that you already know who are rock stars and guys you want to know who are rock stars, and then you tell these other rock stars, hey, these rock stars are coming and we're doing something really cool, and then they all come and become rock stars.
A lot of men with a lot of ego more than even money. And they all have this way of like self-promoting themselves, and I'm muting it. Look who it is. Oh, our buddy Sean Reyes. Imagine that. Sean Reyes in the mix of the party there.
Hutchinson, while on an OUR mission about 4 years ago, was accused of fondling a purported child sex slave. The incident was caught on camera.
This is what I was just referring to.
OUR won't release the video. Hutchinson denies the charge, and he says the purported child sex slave was later determined to be 18 or older.
He denied it at first. However, he has done interviews with Vice and things of that nature and explained how the situation actually happened according to them. But none of them are really honest about much. So you kind of got to read between the lines because they're not transparent. And there's a video that exists, but it hasn't been released as of yet.
I interviewed Hutchinson and he described the incident.
Mm-hmm.
It was at a club and the manager raised the dress. There was nothing ever that was touched inappropriately.
Thanks for
There was a trafficker there next to me and actually lifted up my hand. If I had pulled back right there, my life would have been in danger, no doubt about it. I caressed the side of her arm at the time. Any undercover CIA agent anywhere would have known that if I pulled back and said, oh no, then we would have been in serious danger for our lives. My source told me about Hutchinson and the touching incident. Hutchinson is a guy who brings a lot of money into OUR. The incident was recorded on camera. Ballard told my source, don't show anyone. A trafficker lifted up the girl's shirt and he touched her breast. OUR claims she was not a minor. There was another incident. Hutchinson touched a girl's face and kissed her hand. Ballard ordered the same cut. Tim is terrified the touching incident will come out. Sean Reyes thinks Tim walks on water.
I think Tim should have been a little bit more afraid of what he was doing to the women coming out, because that's one thing. So here's another incident of another person on an op, Paul Hutchinson. Now remember, supposedly they were given a blessing Tim Ballard was given this blessing by uppers in the church, given tithing information of these donors, like the wealthy people, who to target, inviting them to go on these things. And then how many issues are we going to hear actually happened? Seems like they were kind of creating issues.
Here are some other Hutchinson disclosures: that he had bouts with pornography, even what he said, barely legal sites. What he meant was not quite child porn sites. That he discussed his porn problem with Tim Ballard and Sean Reyes. He said, not that everybody that looks at pornography is addicted, and not that everybody who is addicted ends up being a child pedophile. But every single person that we've arrested, every single one of them started out with an addiction to pornography.
So these are the guys that were going on the ops to help bust these trafficking rings, right? And rescue women and children from traffickers, are people who knowingly have problematic pasts. Again, if you have a corn, whatever, that's between you and whatever you choose to do. But this type of work, that should have been a red flag, in my opinion. I don't know.
He said, when I go on the OUR trips, I feel the Spirit of the Lord 100% with me, directing me, speaking to me every single step of the way.
Right.
Hutchinson has since been accused of fondling a female rescue worker while on a mission. He declines comment. Now I'll talk about Eric Moutsos.
The bigot himself, Eric Moutsos. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, we covered this before when Eric came out and started talking against Tim. Finally, he was a huge Tim supporter, like the biggest fangirl of Tim. I can't stand Eric. Eric is a former police officer with Utah. He actually refused to work in an LGBTQ parade. Big deal. It's in news articles that we've covered previously to this. Eric is still on Instagram. Poor him, poor his friends. They just need to repent and all will be right. He has claimed that he believes the victims now. But again, his involvement with the Mormon church, in my opinion, is more, he had to pick a lane. So he either had to stop defending Tim or to stop defending the Mormon church. And the Mormon church brings in more money into his companies, in my opinion, than probably Tim Ballard. So kind of an easy choice, in my opinion.
He's one of Utah's leading, if not the leading, anti-masker.
Yeah.
He organized Utah's biggest anti-mask rally and concert. It was originally scheduled for May 30th in Davis County. Kaysville Mayor Katie Witt's approval was rescinded by the city council. Then the concert venue was moved to Grantsville. A Twilla County judge disallowed it. His business revival concert was finally held at Cedar City on June 13th. The keynote speaker and rapper was Sean Reyes. He said, predators are exploiting COVID to victimize Utahns, and my AG team and I are on watch, tracking and taking them down, whether they are human traffickers, drug cartels, child pornographers, or other abusers. Here are a few lines out of Reyes's Cedar City rap. Hunting predators, I'm a dragon slayer, making believers out of all them haters. As I chase down in my town, criminals like a bloodhound till they're found, even underground. Don't mess around in my town. I'll take you down.
I think you took yourself down there, Sean?
Who is Eric Moutsos? He's a former Salt Lake City police officer and a devout Mormon. About the Book of Mormon and Jesus, he said, I knew it was true. Times where I feel so close to Christ, I can almost audibly hear his voice. He called on the Mormon church to divest itself of KSL television and the Deseret News, and if not, they will be reduced to ashes after the Savior comes to burn Babylon to hell. He recently attended his LDS church service. He said, I thought our family would be the only ones maskless. Nope. To my surprise, about 3/4 of the congregation did not have masks on. It was a beautiful sight, old and young. Here's Moutsos' latest call to protest. He said, our children should be the focal point of an October 31st protest. from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. The right to assemble and gather. Allow them to roam and loot for candy. It will be called Halloween. It's okay to wear this type of mask. He said, we're seeing the effects of God's.
Now, the big problem is you can have your own personal beliefs on the whole masking, the C situation, all of that. Again, this is from 3 years ago. But the big part is these guys are law enforcement officials, governor or attorney generals. I won't put Cox in there. Senator Mike Lee is part of this whole thing too, but they are the people who are in charge of protecting and serving and saving their communities. They're elected officials. This is a big deal that they are going against everything that they're supposed to be implementing. That's why it's a big deal. He was a police officer.
Wrath. He said the California fires broke out about a week after the state decided to change the law to give more freedom to pedophiles.
Blaming the fires in California. This is the type of mentality we have with this group of people. That's why the names that are coming out in this lawsuit, the amendments, none of it's shocking to me.
And about Utah's severe windstorm, yes, I believe God had something to do with over 3,000 trees ripping out and crashing down in Salt Lake County. Mouts predicts a doomsday with everyone being physically forced to defend themselves and their families, and it may not be against foreign invaders. Sadly, it will most likely be by the very government the apathetic people allowed to grow into what it is today. He said, can someone logically explain to me how we don't enter into a full-on civil war at this point? I believe it's inevitable. But this is what happens when an entire society reaps the benefits of freedoms they didn't fight for. And he posted this on his site. The only reason why the government would want to disarm you after 243 years is because they intend to do something that you would shoot them for. Mouts gave Tim Ballard top billing at a July 22nd business revival event at Washington City, Utah. Masks not required. Here you see Ballard and Mouts with heavyweight boxing champion Evander Holyfield. Mouts said, Tim Ballard spoke about Operation Underground Railroad, and in my opinion, he's a true hero. He puts it all on the line, has saved over 4,000 kids from the worst evils our world won't look at.
He has saved over 4,000 kids. However, there is no documentation to provide that he has actually done anything, really. There is no proven factual documentation that shows that he saved really anybody at this point in time. I mean, he didn't even pass a CIA polygraph test.
Next up, Russell Brunson.
Here we go.
He's an author, an online marketing genius. Here's an example of one of his books. How to Make a Potato Gun was his earliest of a series of promotional home runs. His ClickFunnels app is wildly popular among multi-level marketers who push their internet sales. Plus, his app is a pyramid venture where users can market ClickFunnels itself.
Another guy.
Brunson uses his fame and fortune to promote Mormonism and the Book of Mormon. He issues a Book of Mormon challenge. He urges his followers to read the Book of Mormon and pray to get a witness of its truthfulness. Recently, he said, I spent a small fortune and purchased one of the original 5,000 copies of the Book of Mormon that Joseph Smith originally printed. Brunson uses that purchase to explain his hook principle. What does peeing your pants and buying an original edition Book of Mormon have in common? It's about Brunson's method of marketing success, the hook and the story. It's about his marketing the Book of Mormon and the marketing of another book, Abs, Core, and Pelvic Floor by Natalie Hodson. Brunson begins his story with the workout book's author wetting her pants while making a promotional video. He points out most people would have deleted the video to avoid embarrassment. Instead, Natalie Hodson used it as a hook to tell her story and propelled an ebook on peeing your pants to a 7-figure business. Brunson explained in a video clip how he made $3 million in 90 minutes and how his hook method worked for his Book of Mormon challenge and Hodgson's Pee Pants book.
You're creating a story, you're creating a hook and a story gets people interested. Today, I'm actually filming a product. And what's the product? Well, I spoke at the 10X event. At the 10X event, I made in 90 minutes, I did $3 million. So that's a hook and a story. So I'm recording a 5-hour training today, teaching how I did it, because that's something that will sell like crazy. People will put out, like, do you hear that guy Russell? He made $3 million in 90 minutes. So you should buy the course to figure out how you did it. Like that's the key, is like that story. Like, I peed my pants. I went fat to fit to fat. I read the entire Book of Mormon in a day. I went and bought an original Book of Mormon. I made $3 million in 90 minutes. Like what's the story? You got to find those stories that are out there.
Do you notice how much he sounds like Tim? And these are just some of the people that are limey, 100%. Mouts is bad news, in my opinion. Now, again, he has pushed himself away from Tim Ballard, but he still was a big part of all this. But all of these guys have such a similar way of marketing themselves, and it's all deception, in my opinion. Every bit of this is they're all so deceptive in their ways. They all have ties to MLMs, and all of them run in these groups. Like, this is not even, I don't know, watching them lay out all the different people that are around and hearing these people talk, I'm just like, oh my God, no wonder why we got here.
So how does Brunson figure into OUR?
Here you go.
He funded OUR's movie, Operation Tucson.
He helped put
that movie was the primary topic of my first video op-ed.
Hey,
An online pre-release screening netted a claimed $3 million in donations. A July 10th, 2018 private showing, where Brunson and the movie's director, Nick Nanton, were on the stage with Tim Ballard, brought in another $1 million.
Think about that. So he funded Operation Tucson, which kind of put Tim on the market, or the map, I guess you would say, within the Mormon church too. He was being really pushed between his books and that movie, but they helped. And think of what we just heard him talk about, making $3 million in 90 minutes. These guys absolutely, in my opinion, targeted wealthy. I guarantee, this is just my opinion, after reading through that lawsuit and seeing that they're claiming that the church gave this information, I bet that's not the first organization that they've given the wealthy tithing members information to. I would venture to say that this is kind of a common practice within the Mormon church.
At the screening, Brunson told the audience his work for OUR changed his life, and he explained how prayer led to selecting Nick Nanton to direct the movie.
Pretty sure that my life is going to change forever after this.
Another one that can cry on command. Look at how amazing they are at this. Look at that. Look at that. And I'm telling you, they start him young. They get him behind that pulpit to testify that the Mormon church is the one and the only true church. I'm not even joking. That's exactly. They get up there to do the little ones to give their testimony. And again, I'm not against all religions, but they are taught this in the Mormon religion. You get accolades from your family if you can turn it on and off when you get up there and, I believe, that the Mormon church is the one and true church, and they will start bawling, but they're teaching them at like 8 years old to do this. And these guys have it down pat. Crazy, though, to watch them all just like.
But I was sitting there in the morning, I was praying, like, I don't know what to do or how to do it. And please, God, lead me to know what to do to help this organization and see what we can do as a community. And I've known Nick for years, but never really well. And as I'm praying this morning, his name popped in my head and said, call Nick right now.
Brunson made a promise to those he encouraged to read the Book of Mormon. You will find the power to avoid deception, he said. But that didn't work for Brunson. It didn't help him figure out the documentary he financed is chock full of deceptions, inaccuracies, and falsehoods. Why are so many people mesmerized by the movie to the point they donate millions of dollars? Maybe they drink the same Kool-Aid as Brunson. Drinking the Kool-Aid has come to mean being gullible and taking as gospel anything espoused by a charismatic person. That can include the gullible being too easily willing to invest or donate to some get-rich-quick scheme, which at least one Mormon leader, Dallin Oaks, has cautioned against.
But they also caution against anybody within the Mormon Church doing their own research. They really try to limit their members from investigating and doing their own research. If one of these guys who is promoted by the upper echelon of the Mormon Church, they just believe it. They do not vet anything themselves. They do not look any further into it. Unfortunately, that's very common. And I really think we're seeing that on a big scale now, because not only did it happen with Operation Toussaint, but look at the Sound of Freedom.
Oaks, in his book Pure in Heart, talks about why Mormons fall for get-rich-quick schemes. He writes, for at least a decade, there have been a succession of frauds worked by predominantly Mormon entrepreneurs upon predominantly Mormon victims. Stock manipulations, residential mortgage financings, gold, silver, diamonds, uranium, and document investments, pyramid schemes, all have taken their toll upon the faithful and gullible. Whether inherently too trusting or just naively overeager, some Latter-day Saints are apparently too vulnerable to the lure of sudden wealth. You could add, to the lure of anything that is too good to be true. However, the LDS Church's website helps promote Ballard's affinity scam.
Sure did.
It says, the fundamental reason he does this work is because of his faith in Jesus Christ. There's no question in my mind that this is the Lord's work and that we are his hands, Ballard says. On to another person in the OUR circle, Burgess Owens.
Now we got another politician involved.
Here he's seen with Sean Reyes.
Again, y'all, if you don't know what video we're watching or you just popping in, this is Lyn Packer, who has been great at investigating all of this for years and years and years. He is hands down, in my opinion, one of the ones who has brought this to light with all of the OUR, the Tim Ballard, the Sean Reyes. Lyn Packer's investigative journalism is top, and he should get, I think it's the Pulitzer Prize. Is that what it is? He's a very, very well-known investigative journalist in Utah. He's not liked by a lot of the Mormon Church, but he is incredible at what he does. Incredible. And then he works with a gentleman by the name of Damian Moore, who is very, very good too. Damian Moore is based out of Las Vegas. He runs American Crime Journal. Please check them both out. They are amazing. Let's continue on.
And with Tim Ballard. He's a former NFL star, Super Bowl champion, and Mormon convert. Congressional candidate Owens, along with Utah Attorney General Sean Reyes, spoke at this year's Republican National Convention. He opposes Obamacare, supports Trump, and is a Fox News contributor. He tweeted his congratulations to a QAnon-supportive Colorado Republican candidate. And child sex trafficking is one of Owens' campaign talking points. Here's some of Owens' anti-sex trafficking campaign material. He writes, human slavery thrives today. Then he makes some of the same claims that Ballard and Reyes make. 30 million of them, 10 million children, are used for cheap labor, sex trafficking, and organ transplant. He asks, where are the voices of the Black Caucus, Black Lives Matter, and former President Obama? Far and away, the person.
Oh, and my favorite yet to come. Just so you know, the reason why, like, again, this is not Democratic, Republican, or anything. But if you notice, all of the Republican candidates out of Utah that are associated with Tim Ballard, Sean Reyes, Mike Lee, all of them used human trafficking in Tim Ballard's work and their little ops missions that they would go on and attend and rub elbows with as a part of their campaigns. It would have been fitting for Tim Ballard to run for Senate and do the same exact thing that they've all done. It's just, this has been going on for years and years. Tim Ballard is not alone in this. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people involved. And looky here, Mr. Glenn Beck himself. If you remember back to the email in the, here, let's actually, before we go over here, let's go back to this for a moment. For those of you guys that might not have been here when we went through this, let's look at this email right quick. So this was sent the day after, I think, the Vice article came out, from my understanding. I think it was the day after. I will check that for sure and let you guys know. But this was an email from Glenn Beck to Tim Ballard. Tim, I have spoken to Elder Anderson, who was out of the country, Mike Lee a few times, and Sean Reyes today. First, Elder Anderson did not have any information that was new as he's been out of the country. He said he knew that this was urgent and he would be talking to some of the brethren and would get back to me this week. He indicated the language of betrayal was disturbing, but he knew very little beyond this. He was very concerned about you as well as the church and promised to get back to me as soon as he heard anything. He did urge caution for everyone until we know more from the church authorities. I urged him that the time was of the essence. He understood and said that he would do all he could from where he was. Glenn doing damage control. Second, I spoke to Mike Lee, Senator Mike Lee. Yeah, he's involved in this shit too. And Sean Reyes, he just calls him Sean, several times today as well. I feel strongly that we will keep our powder dry until we know exactly what is happening with the church. Any false or inaccurate statements or speculation from anyone on your side, Tim, again, any, will prove deadly to the cause of justice. I believe you should speak to Sean and Mike about an attorney outside of Utah with no Mormon ties to avoid conflict. That can soft pitch the idea that you are asking for the church to be clear and go through the usual church court process. It is disturbing that you found out about this the same way everyone else did. One of the things that you love about our faith is that the Lord's house is a house of order. So you welcome the order to return so that you may continue as a saint in good standing, which I currently am. They and you should deny any lies that are being spread, but be careful here. You don't think it's just a coincidence that you have been seriously considering a run for Senate as those accusations come forward? You pray that you and your family in the church are protected from secret combinations that wish our faith and our country harm. Again, be careful here. A soft statement should be made Monday, as we have proof what happened within the church. When you have the truth, when Sean has the proof of what he needs, Mike has what evidence he needs to prove anything political. Shut the fuck up, Mike Lee. I might consider a credible investigator. Oh, kind of like one that Sean hired to smear his opponents when he ran for office. Okay, like one of those credible investigators. Why don't you just hire Rad Barrett again? He's right up for the job, in my opinion. Then and only then you should move forward. This very well may be the first shot across the bow to let all of us know Satan has an unrighteous place in all high places. We need to be very strategical about any moves from here. We are playing chess now. The days behind us, I fear, will soon feel like we are playing Candyland. What do you feel like you're playing now there, Glenn? Hide the potato? Hide your hands? Cover your hands? What are you playing these days? What game do you guys think you could play this? It's definitely not Candyland. It's not Chutes and Ladders because they're not climbing up the ladders anymore. They're all kind of fell down off the ladders. What would you guys say that this has kind of evened out to be as far as a game board would go? It's kind of like Farkle or Mad Libs, maybe more like Mad Libs. I don't know. You have known the importance of your calling. The gates of hell have opened over and over for you. Kathleen. Why does he call her Kathleen? I thought it was Catherine. And the family. Now that God loves you and is with you, let him be your sword and shield. He is not unaware of your plight. In the days in which we live are indeed what we think they are. The Lord will clean out his own house first. Squirrels and ladders? Probably more likely. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth will set us free. Yeah, Glenn, we're waiting on the truth. Are we ever going to get it from you or anybody else? And will be the only thing that will stand the purification. Let us love all of those that hate and persecute us. May we all be on our knees for you and your family. No, thank you. I'm never going to be on my knees for Tim Ballard or anything to do with Tim Ballard, as well as those brothers and sisters that are lost in the darkness. Glenn Beck, if you want something you've never had, well, he cited Glenn Beck, and then he says, if you want something you've never had, you will need to do something you've never done, like coerce women, basically groom women, violate people's trust, defraud donors. I mean, maybe like honesty. Is that what you're talking about? Something he's never done before? I get it. That works. Every leader is telling a story about what he or she values and the way they behave. When leaders choose to be positive in the face of intense adversity, the story tends to be wildly shared and often repeated. Walt Disney. Funny that, again, I will mention that he quotes Walt Disney, considering Walt Disney declined to even have anything to do with The Sound of Freedom. Like, of all places. Yeah, Language of Horses. Interesting, huh? I didn't know that, Perry. I didn't know. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Freddie, that would be a good one. I wish they would. I wish they would try to come out with. Oh, by the way, somebody asked me if I was talking about the Harmon brothers that own the Harmon grocery stores. No, this is I think it's related family members, but I do not think that it's the same line. It might be. I will get you the family tree on that because I'm not exactly sure of how they fall, but it's the Harmon brothers that own Angel Studios. I think I think they're related, but not the same all the way around, but I will get that information too. Okay, let's go back to this. We're almost done with this. Glenn Beck, here we go.
The person who's had the most influence on Operation Underground Railroad is Glenn Beck, who has the nickname Mr. Apocalypse Now. He's a multimillionaire broadcaster, a Mormon convert, and a conspiracy theorist.
From hell.
He owns Mercury Radio Arts, the parent of digital radio TV network The Blaze. He's a prepper. He said, you don't need to brag that you have an underground bunker filled with a year's supply of food and ammo. Keep it on the down low.
Right, language.
Apocalypse Now, called the ultimate movie for conspiracy theorists, is about a rogue army colonel gone off the rails amid the chaos of war.
You've heard of Colonel Walter E. Kurtz? Your mission is to terminate the colonel's command.
Terminate. Terminate with extreme prejudice.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Glenn Beck believes a civil war is imminent and issued this dire warning. He believes the war will be touched off by a Marxist conspiracy,
And find out for you.
mail-in voting, Black Lives Matter, the defund police movement, mask wearing, church closings, and the left normalizing pedophilia.
Well, tonight I'm going to show you why this revolution is nothing like anything we've ever faced before. I will show you why this one is dark, dangerous, sinister, and flat out evil. The revolution will destroy all of us. Tonight, the way America could end in 2020.
These people all have one thing there's multiple things in common. They can cry on command. They all lie at the drop of a hat. But one thing that they are all really good at is using fear mongering. That is something that they all do. They use fear mongering. Again, I'm not talking about your normal preppers. I totally understand that we're talking the extremists in this situation. The visions of glory, doomsday prepper type people. That's this group of people. And it's extreme to a lot.
Tonight, I'm going to talk to you about civil war and the destruction of America as we know it.
Yes.
Civil war. It's going to begin
Huge.
at the election. You are going.
Look they've been predicting. Didn't we just hear that because of what was breaking out overseas, that the world was close to ending, the second coming? You know, they've been trying to use that recently again. But here in 2020, he was predicting civil war. That's being predicted again now, that they will fearmonger any way they can. And this is another tactic behind all of this.
Going to realize that your country is in its final stage.
It's, yeah, Limey, it is an understatement.
It is only in its final stage if you don't know you are being played, if you don't know what's about to happen, and if you strike out or add to the chaos in any way, you will be an accelerant on this fire. You must trust in God. You must pray like you've never prayed before.
Glenn Beck's impact on OUR cannot be overstated. He played the key role raising money and nationwide awareness at the birth of OUR. He kickstarted two separate but related entities, Ballard's nonprofit Operation Underground Railroad and the for-profit movie television action series venture Abolitionists, LLC, headed by two Utah filmmakers and a Hollywood producer. Both were begun near the same time in 2013, but the movie venture led out. The relationship between Ballard and the filmmakers turned rocky, even ugly, very quickly. The beginnings of the Abolitionist project played out on Glenn Beck's television show. Hollywood producer Jerry Mullen and Utah filmmakers Chet Thomas and Darren Fletcher pitched the television series movie concepts to Beck. Jerry Mullen, of course, is well known. He's seen here with Steven Spielberg. He's an Oscar winner. Produced movies like Minority Report, Twister, Rain Man, Schindler's List, and Days of Thunder. He's a Mormon, and he's a Tea Party supporter and conspiracy theorist. The TV series about the dramatic rescue of child sex slaves at first was to be broadcast on Beck's network. Darren Fletcher told me Glenn pounded on his desk, pointed at Chet and me, and said, "I know what I want. I want a television series, and I want you two to produce it for me." Near the same time, Ballard's OUR was brought to life by Glenn Beck. The main concept Ballard pitched Beck was the creation of a paramilitary jump team that would swoop in and rescue child sex slaves. Ballard's OUR team would provide the action film for the Abolitionists movie makers. Beck raised the initial $1 million seed money from his radio and TV followers. Ballard began forming OUR well before he left the Department of Homeland Security in December 2013.
Beck raised the money. Don't forget about this. Yes, Melanie, we are. Okay, I'll get to the Herman thing in just a second. Perry is right. Yes, it's on Peacock too. Don't pay for it, y'all. You can watch it for free on Peacock. If you want to see it, watch it on Peacock. But Glenn Beck was the reason why it got its first funding. Glenn Beck was the one who raised the first $1 million behind this. Again, they've always wanted this reality TV show. There was always these hopes of this reality TV show behind this. This is the way Lyn lays this all out is mind-blowing, to say the least, because the people involved, the wealthy, the politicians, everything, and now to watch it all crumble and some of these people being mentioned in this lawsuit is very intriguing.
In this video clip, Beck describes the first time Ballard pitched OUR.
And he explained what he was doing and explained that he needed to get out of working with the government, and he had a way that we could really make an impact, but they needed $1 million to start. And
seems like he had a way out of the government. He got fired according to the lawsuit. According to the lawsuit, he got fired from the CIA. He didn't even pass his polygraph. and he was an unpaid intern. So again, what? Come again?
And I happened to be with an attorney, and he was sitting with me, and I asked a whole bunch of questions, and my attorney said, no, you can't. What happens if something goes wrong, blah, blah, blah.
Should have listened to your attorney.
Blah. If you're raising money and it's on the border and these guys are, you're in Texas.
What aren't you doing? Really get spying on people.
But I mean, this is child trafficking.
Tim is the most sincere, most honest, honorable man I think I've ever met.
Oh yeah, sincere, honest, and honorable. Those are words that Glenn Beck described Tim Ballard as. Sincere, honest, and honorable.
And I said, I'm in. We'll raise your first $1 million.
My time, my network, everything is at your disposal.
This photo shows Glenn Beck's beneficiaries in front of his studio, the movie producers, and OUR. Two separate but cooperating ventures. The two entities were supposed to keep at arm's length to avoid breaking nonprofit law. One of the movie makers told me Ballard forced us to make him a full partner. We said right out, it's a conflict of interest. We sat down with Tim and said, dude, this isn't right. You're double dipping. He threatened to deny use of footage. He was paid about $180,000 for a few days' work. Was it blackmail? We knew it was unfair. There never was a TV action series. The movie was completed despite the behind-the-scenes blow-up. The movie after...
So another movie that had blown up because of Tim Ballard's involvement before it got released, but they went ahead and released it anyways. Can you tell me that there was a lot of greedy people involved in this, that they were just waiting? So another movie that blew up, they had issues with Tim before, just like The Sound of Freedom, but okay now.
Pre-release fundraiser screenings was premiered May 12th, 2016 in Salt Lake.
I did, Lisa.
Sean Reyes used his title and office as Attorney General to promote attendance at the initial Utah showings.
And there's old Sean promoting it again.
This is Attorney General Sean Reyes coming to you from the great state of Utah, here in the Capitol, and I've got a really pressing issue that I need to talk to you about. I want to thank everyone who has supported the Abolitionist movie, everyone who has supported Operation Underground Railroad. Even if you've seen the previous version, you have got to come out May 16th for opening night. The Abolitionists will be showing in a number of local theaters here in Utah. We need to make sure we have a successful launch of the Abolitionists here in Utah. And with that launching pad, OUR will be able to launch the Abolitionists filming and screenings throughout not just the United States, but throughout the world.
Noted Utah politicians attended the premiere. The movie bombed at the box office before even making nationwide release. OUR now uses it for fundraising. Still, Glenn Beck's DNA remains deeply embedded in OUR. OUR has another movie waiting.
Wonder why he was so concerned. I wonder why Glenn Beck was so concerned about sending Tim an email to try and do damage control, and now it's in the lawsuit. I mean, what do you guys think here? Again, kudos to Lyn Packer. I'm going to say that until you guys are sick of hearing me say that, but I cannot tell you how amazing this is, because he doesn't miss anything with his reporting. And he did this 3 years ago, you guys. 3 years ago, all these problems existed. Now we're just watching it finally play out in legal documents. Finally, which should have happened years ago.
In the wings, The Sound of Freedom. It stars actors and is for theatrical release. It was shot 2 years ago. It was slated for a 2019 release, OUR now says fall of 2020, which means pretty soon. Eduardo Verástegui directed The Sound of Freedom. There's also been buzz about Verástegui running for president of Mexico.
Remember in the lawsuit when we were reading one of the couples, the husband's statement and the supposed alleged corruption that they tried to put him involved in, that he was attempting an assassination attempt. This would be the gentleman that they were trying to put in that. That would be Rad Barrett, Tim Ballard. And, you know, he was with these people. Yeah. The level of fucked up here is beyond belief.
The Sound of Freedom makes the same unproven claims made by OUR's pseudo-documentaries, YouTube videos, and fundraisers, including exaggerating child kidnappings. The trailer says hundreds of thousands of young women have vanished from their everyday lives, forced by violence into a hellish existence of brutality and prostitution.
Kind of like grooming and coercion and making them do everything while under the assumption that it's to save trafficked children and women. Kind of similar.
All I see are those kids' faces. How long you been doing this? 12 years. How do you do it? It is the fastest growing international crime network that the world has ever seen. It has already passed the illegal arms trade, and soon it's going to pass the drug trade.
Wherever I go, I find my way home.
This shit pisses me off.
Verástegui, Reyes, Hutchinson, and Ballard were made federal diplomats of Mexico and awarded honorary doctorate degrees. Hutchinson is one of the film's executive producers.
They were awarded honorary doctorate degrees? Like, what the fuck is that even? What is that? You get a plaque that says, what? What does that do? Is that why they have doctor in front of their names now? Come on. Anybody else help me here? Because this shit cracks me up. Yeah, Lisa, I'm interested to look into more of what you were talking about, because I was like, whoa, this shit just gets wilder and wilder.
And the film features a character based on Sean Reyes. Verástegui also supported the Reyes political campaign, referring to him as my dear friend. Will the movie be shown in theaters before the election? Whether the film is actually released in time to help promote Sean Reyes's swashbuckling image and influence balloting remains to be seen.
All right. There's the end of that one. But I'm telling you guys, this is going to get deep. This is going to get deep. And Lyn has been on it all along. But if you look at the people, the wealthy Mormons involved in this, the handlings of all of this, the money, the way they maneuver, the behaviors, all of it. And we've just barely touched the tip of the iceberg. Tony Robbins is still being silent. Glenn Beck's been pretty silent. This is just right. Yeah. There's a lot of questions. Okay, on the Harmon side of things, before I forget to answer that. So the Angel Studios is owned by Neil, Jeffrey, Daniel, Jordan, and Benton Crane. So the brothers are Neil, Jeffrey, Daniel, and Jordan Harmon. That's the brothers that own Sound of Freedom, along with Benton Crane. That's who started, and it's a Mormon-based film company. The grocery store is owned by Lori, Randy, Bob, Brady, Christine, Alex, Jamie, Emily, Doreen, Jen. That's the family line. So different family lines. I'm sure they're probably related somehow, cousins, something like that, but two different lines. So Harmon is a pretty big name in Utah. I actually sold the row with some Harmons there was people in the MLMs. Utah is the capital of the MLMs for a reason. What do you guys think of all this, though? Like, sorry, I was kind of all over the place in my thoughts with this, but I was watching Lyn's videos and I'm like, wait a second, he's laying out the wealthy and where they're getting their money from. Do you think Glenn, I think the church might have been given this information. Glenn has personal contact to some of these apostles. So who's to say that this is the first time that they've been releasing church records to people of who to solicit donations from? I don't know. Yeah. Yes. Lisa, that they are a major problem. Angel Studios is a major problem in itself. Like, there are so many pieces of this that are problematic on all angles. None of it is good. But you have the same type of men who have power and money, political aspirations, all of them. Okay, so that would be the family on that side, Celeste. Then I'm assuming I'll have to look further to see what the relation is, if it's a cousin situation, maybe no relation at all, just like Ballard and Ballard have no relation. But I will look into it and see what I can find for you for sure. But I just Googled that really quick to see. Harmon's grocery store. I love Harmon's grocery store, to be honest. I do. I have to give credit. Their deli and their bakery is one of my favorite. They're overpriced from hell. Imagine that, a Mormon company overpriced. Shocker. But it is one of my favorite grocery stores as far as the deli goes. They have a salad bar, okay? Leave me be. So many people involved, Zoya. Oh, Limey. Oh, Limey, buckle up. This is so bad. There's a huge lawsuit, 2 lawsuits that have been filed in Utah against Tim Ballard, OUR, and things are coming out and complaints are being amended and more people are being named in them. And the church is directly being stated that they were giving out their tithing records of the wealthy to basically OUR to target these donators. Meanwhile, using false propaganda, which would be completely against Utah's laws. But Attorney General, who is supposed to investigate all of this stuff, is best buddies with Tim Ballard and conflicted out of everything. You can't make it make sense. It is so convoluted and twisted, all of it. So this week, just to kind of lay out, because we're going to close up here, we are going to do a few more Lyn Ballard video. Lyn Ballard. What the hell? Lyn Packer. Sorry, Lyn. You can hate me forever for saying that. Lyn Packer, we're going to go through a few more of his this coming week because he has done some incredible things. And I think it's important for people to realize that this has been coming down the pike for years. These complaints, things with these organizations are not just popping up because of a movie and a potential Senate seat run from Tim Ballard. That has nothing to do with it. There was issues that needed to be addressed. I really do think there's going to be an internal investigation. There has to be, over the AG's office in Utah. He should be removed from office right away. There should be no hesitation about that. Governor Cox should be doing that. Senator Mike Lee needs to be, well, he's a piece of shit. If you don't know who Senator Mike Lee is, his politics are the least of my worries. He is a piece of shit in general. And he has helped facilitate and silence people and all of the things in the past too. He's very... Utah politics and the church are hand in hand, and it is very bad, all of it. There has to be, though. There has to be an internal investigation. There's just no way around it at this point in time. So I hope the feds are involved, but I don't even know if this would be... I don't know who would get this investigation, to be honest. I really don't know how that would work. But we've got so much to discuss. We got to talk about Tony Robbins. I want to know where the children are with Children Meets Families. I want to know, because that organization probably bothers me the most. So they claim that they helped fund 145 plus adoptions for kids to be brought into the United States from other countries, including, I've got an interview with Tim that he says Catherine sent him to Ukraine when the Ukrainian war broke out. And they were round about $15,000, $20,000 for each of these adoptions that they were giving to the families to bring them in. And we heard Jimmy Rex talk about he was with when some of these money were presented, but he kind of, I don't know. There's a lot of things that are missing here. 223 kids at least is what we've heard them quote that were brought into this country. Were they brought legally into this country? Meanwhile, they're saying that they're fighting trafficking, but Tim Ballard kind of single-handedly helped keep the strip clubs in Utah in play too. I mean, I wonder if he knows Molly the Mormon from Trails. I wonder if he does. I wonder I should see if we can get one of the strippers from Utah to come on and talk to us and see if they knew Tim from the club. If you don't know who Molly the Mormon is, she is a stripper from Utah. She's beautiful, but she is ex-Mormon, and she's got a pretty good sized Instagram following and stuff. She's actually done an interview with Matt Cullen too. She's cute as hell, but she's funny the way she talks about it. And that's her stage name is Molly the Mormon. It's so funny to me. But then finding out that Tim frequented those spots, I'm like, oh, I bet all the ladies know, because you have to have a card in Utah. Like, it's the way they go about all of it is ridiculous, but absolutely. And we're seeing it play out huge. And Utah needs to be cleaned house from top to bottom. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, Perry, I'm so sorry. Yeah. Definitely not her, Limey. She looks nothing like the other Molly. Nothing like her. She's cute. She's a cute little blonde, and she's in her mid-30s, I think, and she's got an incredible body. Definitely not looking like Moose Knuckle Magoo over there, that's for sure. But all right, y'all, I am out of here for the day. This is what we will be doing this week. We will probably do some cooking on my other channel this week and just some bullshit and check-in stuff, but we are back on the Tim Ballard train. We are also going to throw in some of I am still 100% in the whole of the Lima situation. There's just a lot to unravel through that and understand. And I want to do my due diligence on it. So I'm trying to make sure I know all the different pieces of it, because that's a huge shit show too. But that's, in my opinion, a female with a Messiah complex that is doing similar things here. Lima is very similar to Tim Ballard, just a female version of it. She's got a Messiah complex, in my opinion, who wants to fix other people and is doing more harm than good, in my opinion, too. So, oh, yes, Tracy, I know we got to get through the exhibits. We got to get through the rest of the lawsuit this week. We've got to get into Tony Robbins. We need to talk more about Children Need Families. We need to talk more about Tim Beck or Glenn Beck. I can't name anybody today. Glenn Beck. We need to talk about, oh goodness, you guys, Jim Caviezel. Now you want a freaking headache and a half. Jim Caviezel. Jim Caviezel adopted 2 children from China. I don't know what this all is. And I'm not saying I'm not against adoption at all, as you guys obviously know, but this is craziness. And we need to, yep. Yeah, and Cindy, they're amping up their membership drives right now too, and opening up more missionaries and trying to call for more missionaries, especially senior missionaries. I'll throw that up here right quick before we leave this. We need to get into some of these on the whiteboard. Again, this is courtesy of Damian Moore from American Crime Journal. Thank gosh for him and Lyn Packer once again. But this is the for-profits, the nonprofits that are all connected. And all of these basically tried to lead to TimBallard.com. Imagine that. Tim over here thinking he was going to be the next president. Oh, yes, Elizabeth, we've got a Faith Friday coming up too that we've got to go through. We've got so much content, y'all. Ooh. I've got so much on my plate. It's so crazy. But they're all really good topics, and they're all very in-depth topics, though. Like, they are so in-depth, and you really have to, you can't just jump in and it's sink or swim in these situations. So yeah, Vice articles. Yeah, there's so much to this. So much. All right, y'all. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day. Again, if you have reached out to me in email, I said this before, there's some stuff going on in the YouTube sphere of things that has nothing to do with any of this, but I am being very careful with emails. So if we have never talked in the email before and you've reached out to me and I don't message back, please understand I'm just being really careful. I've been receiving some pretty horrific threats. So I'm being very careful about that. I'm not trying to not encourage anybody or to reach out to me. I will try to get to them and try to be a little bit better about my discernment of which ones to answer or not. But if it's just because people are being cloned too, so that's a problem. But anyways, with that, I hope you guys all have a wonderful rest of your day today. I will see you guys back here tomorrow in the afternoon. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye, y'all.